lived in LA. So
That person.
Yeah. That person.
How are you liking it?
I like LA actually.
Yeah.
What part?
I live on the east side in Atwater Village.
Oh my God, my friend used to live there. It's
cool.
it's like quaint and sweet. Like
It
that
is,
part.
yeah.
It's like a little pocket
Yeah.
that's surrounded by beauty.
Yeah, it's cool.
But getting anywhere from there is
yeah.
hectic, but who wants to leave that area if you don't
That's
have to?
the thing, we stay very much on the east side.
You don't have to. Oh, the bars, the
Yeah.
restaurants, it's so cute. Lots of trees. Okay. Lots of trees.
It's important.
Barley was living in Atwater before she left.
Oh.
All right, we're all good with levels? Thank you. And everyone has met each other? Okay.
We go back.
All right. Welcome to South by Southwest 2026. We are Aaron and Ange of the Bitch Talk podcast, joined by our honorary bitch, John Wildman, editor-in-chief of Films Gone Wild. And in this segment, we're talking about the film Time and Water, which is having its Texas premiere in the documentary feature category. And we have a return beloved guest, director Sarah Dosa, with us. Welcome back, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Can you please introduce your film to our audience?
Sure. So my film is called Time and Water, and it's the story of an Icelandic poet named Andri Snær Magnason, who is tasked with kind of an impossible task. He has to write a eulogy for the first glacier to be declared dead to the climate crisis. However, his grandparents, who he loves and worships very much, were some of the first to explore, map, survey, and photograph Iceland's glaciers. And so the film kind of looks at how he's trying to say goodbye to this thing that he never thought he could lose. And we tell his story using his family's archives, as well as a new shooting we did on Iceland's glaciers.
So we had you on for Seer and Unseen years ago, right? And I wanted to know what the connection is to Time and Water. So I'm like, oh, this girl is going back to Iceland. So what's going on?
I love Iceland. I'm endlessly inspired by Iceland. The nature, I'm inspired by nature anywhere, but there's something about spending time in Iceland, which I got to know most intimately through working on the Seer and the Unseen. Because it's so volcanic, you can really see the forces of creation and destruction in the landscape in a way that was quite new to me as someone growing up in Northern California. And I think some of the lessons about kind of the wildness of the winds, the power of the ocean, the incredible bird life, now the glaciers that I've come to know, all of these kind of forces have really taught me just how alive and powerful nature is, and kind of through a new lens. So I think Iceland is just endlessly inspiring for me. But the connection with this film, Andri, aside from being this celebrated poet, he's also one of the leaders of the environmental movement in Iceland. He's a beloved public intellectual. He's just like a wonderful inspiration all around. But he was an advisor on Seer and the Unseen. Once I started making that film, everyone said, you have to speak with Andri Snær Magnason. And once he gave me some kind of really interesting advice about how to frame the Seer and the Unseen, he became someone whose work I really began to love and whose career I tracked. So once I heard about this specific story, once his book on Time and Water came out, and he published this really poignant and devastating article with the title, How Do You Say Goodbye to a Glacier? That's when I kind of knew I wanted to make this film.
It's incredible.
You know, oftentimes when you say there's a couple different blatant approaches to making a documentary. One is you have an idea of your timeline and your outline, and you're dropping things in to fit what you're doing. And then sometimes you just turn on a camera and go, well, let's see what happens. But this one clearly, because of your subject, and because you had the book and you had all these other things, I was assuming, yeah, pretty much. I think we had this thing mapped out, and so that we're dropping in things, which then makes me curious. Is that as the filmmaker, as you're looking for amazing footage, whether in his case this wealth of home video and stuff like that, or whether it be the amazing, gorgeous footage of the glaciers and themselves to drop in, if there was something that was elusive, that you said, I need this to make the third act work. I need this, this segment. Was there something that was really that kind of terrorized you to make the whole thing work?
That's a great question. I should say I love that idea of things being totally mapped out. And while we did have some wonderful guides, Andri's book, Andri himself, It was quite a process of discovery the entire way through. Because we had a plethora of materials from Andri's grandparents' archives to then his own archives, and Andri's own archives are his life. He really sought to capture beauty as it was unfolding before him, whether that's his child in the bath as an infant or a dog doing a funny thing. So quite honestly, his archive is beautiful but also chaotic, because that's how life is. It's beautiful chaos for so many people. So I'll just say, when we were met with all of these pieces, we didn't actually know how to map it out. We had some guiding principles. We really knew we wanted to kind of bring in this idea of human memory as illustrated through archives in relationship to planetary memory, because glaciers, when you can think of them as an archive of planetary memory, since as it freezes the water and also into ice, it also freezes air, dust, earth, feathers, anything that is kind of in the water at the moment. So it becomes a time capsule, so to speak. So we really wanted to bring these things into kind of narrative kinship, so to speak. But as we started to sort through the archive and do our own original shooting, the actual process of weaving that together was quite complicated. But I feel really lucky. I worked with two phenomenal editors, Erin Casper and Jocelyn Chaput. And then later, when we found out we got into Sundance and had this really intense time crush, we got to work with another editor, Mark Harrison, who joined our team. So working with such extraordinary storytellers and my larger team in general, of course guided also by Andri, his writing and his book, I feel really lucky that this collaborative kind of team process was wonderful in navigating kind of the beautiful, messy chaos of this expansive archive itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting that you talk about chaos, because when I watched your film,
Excuse me.
no problem, because when I watched your film, it's so beautiful, and there's a pacing that's very evocative and calming, and you really parallel this grief. We connect grief with people, but you parallel the human grief with grief of nature so beautifully. It interweaves, and I'm like, oh, I connect to that so much. So I'd love for you to talk about how our memories, they not only allow for things, people and nature to live on, but they also provide a roadmap for our future.
That's such a beautiful question. Thank you for that. We thought a lot about memory, how it can transcend time in this film, how it is tragically being lost with the climate crisis. And at the same time, there's a hope that can remain when we think about ourselves beyond kind of the individual human life. When we think about our ancestors, and when we can think about our future descendants, whether they're blood descendants or chosen family, by doing that, it helps us to connect across time. And I do think that can elicit a feeling of hope in these times of grief. I think that when Andri says this quite well in the film, he does this exercise with his young daughter and his own grandmother, where he asks his daughter to calculate how old she'll be at the age of his grandmother, and the answer is she'll be 96, the age of Andri's grandmother, in the year 2104. And for so many people, 2104 seems like this abstract future. But if you can place someone that you love in the future, all of a sudden the future becomes reachable. It becomes something that you can activate your actions towards in a different kind of way. When you think about someone you love in a world, in Andri's context, in Iceland without ice, all of a sudden the crisis, the violence of the climate crisis becomes so much more immediate. Excuse me. So when you think about this continuity of memory, of Grandma Hulda's memories that began at her birth in 1924, now coursing through her great-granddaughter all the way into 2104, you can see how things can continue on. That doesn't mean to brush away the loss, because it's devastating, and we need to see with clear eyes what we're losing right now. But it also helps, I think, to orient us in a place of agentiveness, or agency, rather. So that's something that we were really trying to work with in the film, kind of through these stories of both human memory and planetary memory.
I love with all your films, it's obvious that you want to talk about the